Welcome back to the 2023 verdict, our continuing coverage of the elections. Our election studios. Well, yes, some results have been announced. Many more will be eventually. It might be slow, slowly but surely. It reminds me of the rules of justice. They say it grinds slowly. Uzi would know that how much. It grinds slowly but surely, even though we all wish it could be a little faster. But they say slow and steady wins the race. Well, just to crunch some of these results that have been put together, let's give you a pictorial representation of how it does look, so you can have a mental picture of where we are, as many of you have been asking at the moment. So Sheon is here with us to take us through some of those. Sheon,
how's it been, guys?
We should ask you, haven't you been behind the scenes?
The kitchen has been very hot, though.
Yeah.
You guys are really looking good. I mean, when the kitchen is hot, the food is looking good from this side of the divide. Well, it's been interesting, though, and I think there is a whole lot of dimension that has been brought into this race. And the Nigeria's politics will never remain the same with this. There is a huge disruption, as we will find out. The political map has totally changed. And it's changing until the final moment when the final announcement is being made.
Okay, so a couple of press releases and statements have been put out as well, trying to put out the fire, or would-be fire, because if it's not addressed properly, some things may not go out well. So the Peace Committee, going ahead to get that now, they did put up a press statement themselves, asking everyone, probably like Lagos, to be calm and maintain as much decorum as possible. So this is a call for calm. Please give peace and the process a chance. This is from the Peace Committee. They put up this release earlier in the day, appealing to all and sundry. Now, the first one says, we commend Nigerians for turning out en masse to exercise their civic duty by voting in the February 25 elections. We took note of their presence, dignity and enthusiasm which Nigerians lined up to vote despite observable challenges in the polling units. Second paragraph reads, along with millions of other Nigerians and the international community, we follow developments since the commencement and end of the presidential and the National Assembly elections last Saturday. Not unexpectedly, the elections got on to a rather rocky start with the problems around logistics and accreditation processes across the country. On balance, despite these glitches, the elections were peaceful across most parts of the country. However, now that the process of casting our vote has been largely concluded, the challenge now lies with the collation of the results. We perfectly understand that Nigerians are quite disturbed by these developments. Against this backdrop, we make the following appeals. Nigerians must be reminded that the world has invested a lot of goodwill towards us in these elections. We've taken note of the dissatisfaction among voters who have braved all harsh weather elements to perform their civic duties. All citizens deserve to be rewarded by a process that ensures that their votes truly count. We appeal to INEC to heed the grievances being expressed, to take the necessary steps to escalate investigations of all allegations of infractions, and to ensure that justice is clearly done to all citizens who went out to vote. We've received reports of the culture of voter suppression manifested across the country through the application of targeted violence, disruption of processes, inducement of voters, intimidation, deliberate frustrations of voters, and the challenges of the election equipment. We are pleased that INEC has accepted these lapses and promised to rectify these lapses. We appeal to the security agencies to collaborate with INEC in the investigations of these weighty allegations. Concerns about the failures of INEC results viewing portals IREV across the country must be thoroughly investigated to ensure transparency. Well, this is the fifth paragraph. I don't think that is all, but he went on, though, so let me see if I could just take the very last bit here. It says, finally, let us all stand together, trusting in the will of God. Allow, okay, I'm trying to remember this one, okay, pardon me. Allow subhanahu wa ta'ala for our country. We appeal to INEC to take all the time it requires to ensure that it delivers results that inspire the confidence of our people and meet time-tested standards. Immediately, something's jump out there when you see the entire statement. But let me start with you, Obasanjo, how this comes across to you, being in communication. Pardon me for my...
No, I think this is a very, very important signal that has come through from the National Peace Committee. As we know, all the candidates signed a peace accord, and I think this is the type of signaling that we want to be seeing from both the candidates themselves, who have this support base, but also the National Peace Committee, who understand the importance of putting out this type of communication. So I'm really glad about how swift they were in identifying, the tension that is rising and responding to that to issue the statement.
Prof?
Shane was talking about the
kitchen.
temperature of the kitchen. The heat is not
as if it's been coming from there.
The heat is not confined. I'm sure the kitchen now is at the National Collation Center.
Yes.
But the heat is not confined to those places. I mean, the entire political environment has been heated, and it's important that this kind of cooling of the temperature is done. And of course, it is the role of the National Peace Committee to do so. And interestingly, they've done that at every level. So we hope that all politicians at every level, at the critical level also...
Uzi, before you comment, look at the 6th paragraph. It says, in the spirit of the peace accord, which all candidates and their chairman signed on February 23rd, 2023, the NPC appeals to all the presidential candidates, the chairman of parties, to take full responsibility for statements made by their spokespersons and agents. We appeal to all our citizens to remain calm while INEC continues with its process to its conclusion.
Can they really do that? Can they take responsibility for the statements of their spokespersons and their agents, as we've seen so far?
I think it's moral suasion in the sense that you appointed these people. So they are your agents, you are their principals. Anything they do, they're not speaking for themselves. They're speaking as your representatives. So there are serious issues here. Countries have experienced crisis because of elections. Elections sometimes, rather than just produce new governments, tend to exacerbate existing fault lines in society, and the consequences of utterances, the consequences of messages being sent out sometimes are too dire. People die. People should not lose their lives because of elections and stuff like that. So we have to be extremely careful about what they do. So that is why I agree with the Peace Committee that people should take responsibility. It's not enough to say, oh, I didn't send him that. If they're talking out of line, it's a duty to call them or remove them from that bit. If they want to go and speak as individuals, that's a different issue. But they are invited to programs to speak as representatives of these people.
And they might be vicariously liable to what they say. I'm talking about the principle now, isn't it?
Well, the principle of vicarious liability, yes, as an ordinary English term, they are certainly vicarious liable. And if they are complicit in any way, either before or after the fact, then so the concerning crimes are committed. This peace accord, when you look at it very carefully, some of these things are already outlined in our laws and in international laws. And people should be aware of the influence and what the International Criminal Court can do. Yeah. There are consequences for lots of things that we do. So I think that's very important, and let us not get there. Let the education and enlightenment work towards these people. Let us calm things now. The consequences will be too dire for everybody.
But that bit that says take all the time, is it similar to what you have said, that they should take the time and ensure things are done properly?
I think that people would interpret that how they want to interpret it, right? Because we had already said what's involved here is a cost of time. Now, INEC is taking time to share the results, right? And as we can see, it is taking some time. Now, whether they should have taken time out, right, to come back and share results days after, I definitely think we have all agreed that that's not what we want. So I think they are taking the time to ensure that people feel the process was fair.
Okay, well, let's get now to Labour Party. They have also been speaking, and their DG, Kian Shutokun, is here speaking.
General Muhammadu Buhari pledged to Nigerians free and fair elections with the passage of the new Electoral Act, and indeed has repeated this promise multiple times. The INEC chairman, Professor Mahmoud Yakubu, also came before Nigerians and the global community to promise free and fair elections and severally reiterated its readiness to conduct the elections. What has become glaring is that none of these promises have been kept. All the promises made about deploying a fail-safe system anchored on the BVAS technology were broken. The internet and social media is awash with videos and photographic evidences of the pervasive violence and attacks that were visited on Nigerians, with some attacks still going on across the country as we speak. The evidence of collusion between INEC and the security forces to subvert the will of the people are too numerous to be detailed here. The INEC guidelines on the conduct of the elections were extensively breached, and INEC has evidently been very reluctant to make the necessary adjustment to remedy the situation. Contrary to the publicly advertised guidelines for the conduct of the elections, we are convinced that the processes leading to the results have been severely compromised. Consequently, we regret to state that we've lost confidence in the results being collated and being announced. Nigerians have inundated us with calls and protests over INEC's non-compliance with provisions of the electoral guidelines and the obvious manipulations of the election results. We hereby call on INEC to suspend further announcement of the results and follow its own guidelines or completely cancel the entire election and make plans for another election with strict compliance with the stipulated laws and guidelines.
Labour Party's Akin Oshutoku making their comments heard to everyone, and so the results which he speaks about is what we're going to go ahead and look at. Some of the states that have announced them. I'm sure our political editor is going to take us through some of all of those.
All right, I guess from where I come from, the part of the country that says, where there is work, you get to it. All right, guys, let's get to it. For those of you who think this election is just about one seat, no, it is not. It's about the National Assembly elections also. 109 seats in the Senate chambers and 360 seats in the House of Representatives. The flag is flying and the top contenders are eyeing the seat. A lot of interesting dynamics into the race, and this one seat is in sight. Who will it be? The next president of Nigeria. A crucial race for Nigeria. All right, everyone, you can see you've been monitoring. You perhaps voted. You have your finger in, and that means that you got your franchise activated. So let's get your mind activated as far as the map, the political map is concerned. So if you look at it, this is what is looking like now. But just hold it for a moment. Let me go to this. This is what it looked like just before Saturday. And now this is how the states are controlling the parties are controlling the different states of the Federation, including the FCT. Now, look at it. APC, 21 states, PDP, 14 states, Abia controlling one state as Anambra State. And if you look at how the red color dots the map of Nigeria and how the blue color has, overtaken or dominated the map, because 21 states out of 36 states, that is what the APC has dominated. But guys, before we go into how the map is looking like now, Prof, did you ever think there was going to be a dramatic, were you one of those who of the school of thought that this election was going to be a dramatic departure from this kind of political map that we have?
Even if I thought that there was going to be a dramatic change, that thought would have been very cautious because when you look at the obedient movement, which is actually the force introduced into the calculation, you would not expect that they can cause a major upheaval. because a lot of people think that they are just up there in the air in the social media. And the idea is, let's see what's going to happen. And yes, concerning the APC, there are a lot of thinking about the consequences of the Naira redesign problem, the fuel scarcity, the reaction of citizens to those developments, and the implication it's likely to have on the performance of the APC. Now, there's also the other larger issues about whether the presidency should be zoned to the north or zoned to the south, and we see all of those playing out in the primaries. And many of these parties came out of the primaries with significant conflict and baggages, and you can see that in the post-primary litigations, over 700 of them. So that sense sort of gave us the idea that something is going to give, and that's why the general position is that it's going to be a three-horse race, and that it is the most competitive and unpredictable election Nigeria has ever experienced.
I mean, Chamberlain, guys, I'm one of those who believe that the 2023 election is just going to be like a 5-year road who you've given a marker and to dot is going to paint it with different colors. I'm one of those who thought that that was how it's going to be. But guys, this is how things are looking like now. So let's look at the colors. APC with the blue, PDP with the red, and Labour Party with the light green, and NNPP with the yellow. This is how things are looking right now. For now, it's temporary, but I guess things are going to be moving in a dramatic form in the coming hours. There's a lot of drama that has been playing out. Looked to me like what we saw in 2015 playing itself out again, but then people have the right, isn't it, to be able to voice their opinion.
Well, Sean, very interesting slide you showed earlier. If you could just quickly go back to that slide in terms of how things are looking. But if you look at this, some people would say that this is according to, you know, the state government. The governorship, which might be a very different thing from what we're seeing. What will be very interesting to note is how the former, well, the current president, he'll still be former. I have to wait till May 29 to be able to say that. But, you know, how the current president won in 2019. Did it also maintain this particular map for the presidential elections?
I'll show you that just in a bit. But look, this is the permutation that we took to the election, and we go into how Atiku Abubakar fared against Muhammadu Buhari in 2019 election, and perhaps how 2015 also looked like. But look, before we went into that election, this was how they held their grounds, and you could make the political permutation based on their strongholds. These are their strongholds. We're talking about structures, and the debate was about, we held the structure, you don't have structure. But, Maokwe, the issue of structure, for example, did it come to you with a surprise with Lagos State, for example, that has been held by one party or one political family since 1999, but this time around, there is a dramatic change. Are you surprised?
Perhaps not, and I'm not really an analyst, maybe not the person to be analyzing this, but perhaps not, because if you know what has been happening in Lagos in terms of the numbers, the APC in Lagos does seem to have been struggling quite a bit, especially with presidential elections. Don't forget that, you know, Lagos has also had the thing about producing candidates, people, members of the House of Representatives. We have not seen any from the Senate yet, but who are not members of the APC. And so it was just a matter of time. I mean, they've been struggling to hold on. The APC has been struggling to hold on. It was only a matter of time before we saw results that would look like this. And it seems that 2023 is the year where we're seeing this for the presidential elections. What will be interesting to note is if they will be able to repeat this, if this will still be the situation, because don't forget, in Lagos, they say all politics is local, isn't that what they say? You have Babajide Sanwo-Olu of the APC, who is running for a second term. You have Jandor, Adediran, who is running for the PDP. You have Gbadebo Rhodes-Vivour, who's running for the Labour Party. And you have a number of other parties who are also in the race. So how that is going to play out at the local level will be left to be seen. But this is quite interesting to note for the presidential election show.
Did you ever think, Mr. Ouzi, that the Labour Party was a party, literally 3 months or so, came alive, burst onto the scene with a man who came from the PDP, for example, who was the former vice presidential candidate, got into the Labour Party, just to me like a tornado, and changed things around for the Labour Party. If you look at the Labour Party on our political map, they've really not really mattered in terms of the figures they brought to bear in our elections. But look at it, significantly, Lagos, and now they've held Enugu.
So far.
So far.
I'm a good student of history and especially political history of this country. What you say is quite right on a national scale, but you forgot that Mimiko in Ondo State did exactly the same thing on the same Labour Party platform. He didn't stand a chance. He lost out in PD. He started from AD, and went to the PDP, lost out in PDP after becoming minister, and then went and then somehow won the popular vote. And in the second term, did a lot more in terms of getting a lot of members of the House of Assembly and National Assembly as well. So maybe Labour seems to be the lucky Philip to anybody whose career has
all the thought, Oluwole.
Yes.
And let's guys give us the figures of the election in Lagos. I'd like to draw your attention to something very interesting as far as that election is concerned. The figures will tell us a lot of things. In those numbers, a deep lesson to be learned by any politicians or analysts or any human beings living on planet Earth, especially in Nigeria. If you could give us the figures of Lagos, let's see what it looks like. Maybe we can make a sense of it. Now, over 500,000. Those are the figures that both the APC and the Labour Party held. But Labour Party won with just about a little bit over 10,000. 582,664, winning the likes of Koshofe local government, Ikeja local government, Amuwo Dolphin local government, Ojo local government. These are significant inroads that kind of political party could have made in a Lagos that the likes of the APC had said, this is our stronghold. 10,000.
So, I mean, one of the things that we must remember, Shehu, is that we had additional 10 million people to registered voters, and almost 70% of that between the ages of 18 and 14 are between the ages of 18 and 49. So I think that, layered on the Labour tide, as we're calling it, is that there are a lot of new voters that are coming into the fray, and they don't carry a lot of the baggage and the history, in terms of the loyalty, right? They just want good governance. And I think that that's another thing that we're seeing play out with that particular result of Lagos.
So there was a warning, though, in some of the conversations when we were trying to do the permutations and looking ahead to the election, that Labour Party with their own campaign, a lot of the NSAS movement guys were also on board, the young voters were on board, the kind of people that were following and supporting Labour Party, they are majorly metropolitan voters, and there were warnings that they will make a lot of inroads, if not capture a lot of states that have, like Lagos State, for example, and it does look like those guys who did the permutations at the time have become prophets.
Yeah, I think the level of urbanization in Lagos, the metropolitan nature of the city, makes us think that Lagos is bound to go in that direction. And as we have said before, even in previous elections, at the gubernatorial level, at the National Assembly level, only at the State House of Assembly level have they dominated completely. There's always this tight struggle between the dominant party and others. But they've managed, to keep Lagos for such a long period of time, which made people think that Lagos is a stronghold of the APC. But if you look at the figures consistently across elections, Lagos elections have always been very competitive.
Bring back the figure for us, and let's interrogate some more this Lagos. Lagos is significant. Look, Chamberlain, if you hold a 500,000 votes in this election, it means a lot.
A lot, yeah.
I won't be sitting here.
I'm looking at not too far history between if an Atiku Abubakar got as much of a 500,000 votes more, it could have trounced Muhammadu Buhari in 2019. So a 500,000 votes for a Labour Party is significant. Although we've heard Bola Tinubu say, look, we win some, we lose some. Calm, Lagos, and let's move forward. That is the statement we are hearing from his side. It doesn't look like things are really going well, and looking ahead, and everyone is keeping their arms crossed. But let me take you to another very interesting scenario here in Enugu. I'm not surprised. Are you surprised, guys, that Enugu is going to the Labour Party?
Not really.
No, not really.
I mean, it was that bandwagon effect. So
you could say, for example, that, I mean, a city boy kind of, Peter Obi is coasting on in his own region.
Yes.
Because, for example, you look at, and I'm going to bring that map much later, how Atiku Abubakar had his vote and Buhari had his vote some time ago, and you see that it's more or less, when Jonathan won in 2011, it's more or less half of the nation voted for Jonathan, the other half voted for the other candidate. Yeah. The same thing with Muhammadu Buhari, like half of the map, of the political map, went for Muhammadu Buhari, the other half went for the opponent. And it's looking like that you have your region that you have as your dominating region, and you hold your ground. And if you look at it, Enugu there for you, 4,000.
Let me read that. Let me help you out with
Absolutely.
that. Enugu, the Labour Party won that region with 428,640 votes. I think the margin is incredible. I mean, look at the next party to it is the PDP with 15,000, nowhere close to 428,000.
That's the ruling party in the States.
Exactly. So a big question to really say, you know, the PDP traditionally has always taken Enugu State. So this is a major upset, of course, for Enugu.
And now, to buttress what you have said, in those areas in the southeast, they usually are lacking voter turnout. For a Labour Party to get up to 420,000 votes, that is a lot. I'm not certain that in the past governorship election, and Mr. Uzi can attest to this, most of the times in the southeastern part of the country, the entire votes up for grabs is about 500,000, 600,000. Well, and you see, go ahead.
Shem, we just raised earlier the issue of registered voters versus accredited voters. And Enugu has over 2 million registered voters. I think 2,112,793. And I think so far accredited voters, I do not have the we do not have the figure. Do you have the figure for those who collected their PVCs?
It was a total of 1,995,399.
So it still falls a whole lot short. When you look at those who collected their PVCs in the region, in that particular state, versus the number of people who were accredited to vote, well, you can almost approximate this to almost 500,000, 482,990 people were accredited to vote from the 1.9 million people plus who collected their PVCs.
So again, that's a huge shortfall.
About 40%.
Yes. Well, is it up to 40%? It's about a third of the people who collected their. Well, maybe about 25%, roughly. 25+%. I'm trying to say that 1.9 million might be 2 million. Unless was estimated 2 million, and then, you know, accredited would be roughly 500,000. So that's about 25% roughly of the people who are accredited to vote. And normally, are you saying that normally we would not get that amount of people accredited to vote in an election in Enugu?
In the southeast.
In the southeast. So in 2019, I actually have the figures. So in 2019 presidential election for Enugu, we had a total turnout of 452,765. out of a total of 1.9 registered voters.
1.9 million.
Oh.
1.9 million, pardon me. So it does buttress what Sheung is saying.
Absolutely. I mean, in the Southeast, we've had elections that 600,000 people, 600,000 registered voters. You see 200,000. Yeah. In fact, in some part of the Southeast, you see a governor coming out with 250,000 votes. Anambra, for example. Yeah, I mean, not too far away. Yes. And those are, in fact, there was an election in Lagos State. It was a by-election, which was about the lowest turnout you ever see in Nigeria's voting history. Just about 3% or less than 3% of the entire voting population in, I think it was in Etiosa, Ibejuleki or so. Yeah. So, I mean, the point I'm making here is that whatever message Peter Obi was telling voters, for him to garner 582,000 in Lagos.
Certainly resonated with them.
Absolutely. And whatever he did also to get 428,640 obedience to go out to vote in a commercial city of Enugu and commercial state of Enugu, that must be a massive message, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think that that case of Enugu is likely to play out in other southeastern states.
In this region?
Yes, because there's a huge commitment to having an Obi in the presidential palace. Because if you remember, there was this huge debate about microzoning the presidency to the southeast. And Obi's withdrawal from the PDP was informed by the very fact that he saw the handwriting on the wall, that there was no way if he contested the primaries, he was going to get that. Ticket. Yes. So, of course, if you also look at the big three since 1999, it's only the Southeast that has not made it to the presidency. So, for them, it's a survival issue.
I want to ask, do you think that, looking at what we now know, what we've seen with the PDP, do you think that they missed a chance here? Because really, the candidate of the Labour Party, as you mentioned, originally belonged to the PDP. Yes, we can argue that, well, he was an ABGA before, before he came to the PDP. But he ran on the platform of the PDP in 2019 as vice presidential candidate. It would seem that the PDP really did not take cognizance of the mood of the nation when, it's early days yet, but looking at how he has been able to swing a state like Lagos, there are huge questions as to whether or not they actually took that into cognizance. What are your thoughts?
It's a missed opportunity for the PDP, because what you find is that even with Peter Obi as the vice presidential candidate, they couldn't even take Lagos. Now you see they are going to be shortchanged, because I don't see them taking the same position in the Southeast. So we are going to get a situation where the strongholds of the PDP, and remember they've been very faithful to the PDP for many elections. PDP has always won most of the states in the Southeast, but they are going to lose virtually all of them this time.
Right.
All right. So I think
so there's so much to talk about, but we need to take a break. But when you see the Waziri of Adamawa going into his home state and saying, I am a son of the soil, and he's really shown that, and in not so far away Gombe and Yobe State, and in fact in Katsina, the home state of the sitting president Muhammadu Buhari of the APC, what kind of message do you think that owed? And if you look at Osun State, which is another interesting scenario that I want us to talk about, the margin is very close, but the sitting governor says, I am in charge. This is a political map as we have it. We run to break, everyone. I'll be right back. Thank you so much, everyone, for staying with us on our continued coverage of the 2023 election. It's the aftermath of the process, and we're looking at the collation. Results are trickling in, and we're making sense of some of the figures for you. The map is what we are staying on. We're talking about the 2019-2015 election. Guys, this is what it looked like in 2019. Maybe we should go to 2015 and come back to 2019, for example. In 2015, this is what it looked like. This is APC with the red and PDP with the green. So it was a battle, and this is a presidential election. It was a battle between APC and the PDP, an outright battle between both of them. And if you look at it, most states in some part of the North Central, some part of the northeastern region of the country held by the PDP. But largely, the APC swept the northern region of the country, and the south and the southeast held in 2015 by the PDP, except for Ekiti. This time around, it looks so much, it's different. Ekiti is sworn to the APC, and now Osun flipped now by the PDP. So it looks a bit more different. Things are looking more different. 2019, you go to 2019, and you see that the map looks similar to what we saw in 2015. This is 2019. And Mark, you were the one making reference to 2019, and here you have it.
It's interesting. So I was just taking a look at the indicators you have at the bottom there, where you have Labour Party, and you now also have NNPP as some of the indicators you have at the bottom there, but they make no feature whatsoever on this particular map. It'll be interesting to see what eventually happens, because we're already beginning to see that these two parties are forces to reckon with in the places where they have made their marks. Taking a look at the map for 2023. So it'll be very interesting, as you said, like that child with a crayon who has been gifted a crayon to see how it is that the child paints the map,
so
how he
there was
or
a
she
joke.
likes.
There was a joke, Mark. Tosin, one of our colleagues who was designing some of the map earlier, and we were trying to determine which color to use. And the last time when we were trying to paint this map, we just had to battle with two colors. This time around, we had to contend with more than two colors. So it's interesting how things are panning out. And I think for Nigeria and for the political space, it's opened up a lot of stuff. And the horizon just suddenly opened up, isn't it? More than two political parties.
And as a matter of fact, if you could look at that, and particularly with what happened in Oyo State so far, it's quite good. It's going to be, it looks as if it's going to be an interesting dynamic, because for the governorship elections, they expect that it should go differently. But from what you've seen, what are the key things we should note coming?
You know, the Oyo State is a very dicey state. And when we look at the permutations, we often go back to 2003, where you have a situation that the state is supposed to vote for one party at the presidential level and then another at the gubernatorial level. But what then happened was that the party that won the presidential level, tsunami that came with it, swept everybody away. Now, the same thing happened in 2019. Once the PDP, took the state, all seats in the State House of Assembly, except one or so, went to the PDP. So it's a very dicey situation now that it has gone to the APC. And of course, as we will see later, it's not only the presidential that went to the APC, the senatorial, I think two of them that has been established.
Senator Buhari's return?
Yes, return.
Was defeating the likes of Shina Pella from Accord Party, who left APC and went to Accord Party.
Yes, including Tebe too. Now you will have a situation where we are now moving to the gubernatorial election, and there's trepidation that APC is likely to sweep that state. And a lot of effort must be put into the campaigns for the current governor, who is a sitting governor, to retain that seat.
Prof, so quickly too, look at this. In 2019, Prof, the APC Buhari had 365,229 votes. That's just about 43% of the entire vote cast in that election in Oyo State. And Atiku Abubakar led and won that election with 366,000. It's just less than 2,000 votes to beat Buhari in Oyo State. It's been a very tough contest between those two political parties.
And you see, it's the performance of the PDP, that allow other parties to enter into alliance with the PDP for the current governor to win that seat, because it was previously a two-time APC governor that was in Oyo State at that time. So once the presidential results came up and they saw that the PDP was the only party that had a chance to unseat the APC, all other minor parties went into alliance with the PDP to give that seat to the PDP. So that's why we are saying what is going to happen with the situation on ground. The APC has taken the seat, and then with a very huge margin. And taking also the seats in a lot of the seats in the House of Representatives and the 2 seats in the Senate. As at the time, the last information with that is that the 3rd seat is inconclusive. Now, if you have a situation like that, it's a very dicey situation for the incumbent governor.
It keeps taking shape. We'll keep tabs on that and see how that plays out. But Prof, I have to thank you for coming on, Professor Remi Ayede, an IRAD analyst. But we'll also let you listen to some comments from the police, in considering all that's been going on. They are asking everyone, just watch it.
Nigeria Police Force, having assessed the trend of scaled-up expectations and psychological projections on the ongoing electoral process vis-a-vis collation of results, charges all presidential candidates as leading and respected figures in their respective political parties to seize the opportunity of this waiting period to emphasize the rule of law, respect for Constitution, and constituted authority amongst their supporters, as we all owe a duty to ensure that the nation does not fall into anarchy on the basis of interest and sentiment. The police, therefore, encourage presidential candidates to charge their supporters to uphold the tenets of the peace accord recently signed for the smooth conduct and conclusion of the 2023 general elections.
Welcome back to the 2023 verdicts, our continuing coverage of the elections. Well, Jide Ojo has since joined us. He's an IRAD analyst. Thank you for coming on today.
My pleasure.
I don't know how much of this electoral news you've been consuming before coming on today, but what has the experience been for you so far?
Well, I think we are back to the offsets, which is part of why my advocacy have always been that those who feel that votes do not count have not been following the political trajectory of Nigerian electoral democracy. Votes do count. I mean, we have a couple of incumbent governors who are two-time governors who have lost their seats to come to Senate. I mean, look at someone like Senator Ben Ayade losing to Jarigbe in Cross River. Look at Egwai, two-time governor, incumbent, yes, losing to Labour Party. Also, the case of Governor of Otto in Benue, also presumably lost to APC. So you could see that our electorates are not as they are not stupid, and they are actually very conversant with. It's not a matter of whether your party logo starts with A, so you have an advantage that, you know, as they say.
So the people know what they're doing.
You know, the Gensoke of AC, then they say, okay, you look at the top. But whether your party is the last on the ballot, it does not matter.
So does that suggest that the political map is going to change further?
Of course, it's going to. It's already. You know, it's now. Fortunately for Nigeria, we are not talking of. I mean, I see a rainbow National Assembly now. It's going to be a rainbow coalition, not coalition, but it's going to be such. It's very colorful. Thank you. Very colorful National Assembly. Not just 3, 4, maybe 8, 9. You could see SDP in Nasarawa.
Absolutely.
SDP.
Who would have thought?
Who would have thought? So you see SDP.
And a former two-term governor was defeated. A sitting senator, Senator Tanko Almakura, by SDP. SDP has not been even counted as the third or the fourth party. Is perhaps regarded by some political analysts.
Of Chairman APC too.
Absolutely. That's the
exactly. Even Plateau, home state of two-time governor and DG of APC. Yeah. And you could see all of this upset. And that's what makes the game of politics intriguing. unpredictable. You know, as I said,
before we go into, I have some pictures here that will get you talking, and Uluwale and Bosade, in terms of the National Assembly and the intrigues that have played out. Governors who wanted to go into the National Assembly but are not successful. Some of them that got into the National Assembly and this time around they're not getting back. Don't forget that there's a lot of a huge turnover in the National Assembly. Yeah. A lot of them did not get a ticket. Now, a lot of them also who got a ticket are not getting back because they've lost. Let's look at the presidential election for a moment. Let's stay on it for a few minutes. And let's look at what some of these elections mean. It is a mobile map for now, as far as until we get back to INEC, and INEC announces more results. But this is what we see so far. Some of the blue here, the APC, and a blue here, Jigawa. Now, if you look at the result, they've been following the announcement of result in Kano State. It's been very interesting. Yeah. Kwankwaso has been playing the city boy of Kano so much in that result.
With over 1 million votes
already. And he's doing that, and you wonder, Jigawa is one of the old Kano region, yeah, you know, and it's gone to the APC, and it's been held presently by the PDP.
You see, Sean, it is said that every politics is local. Mm-hmm. And you need to understand the dynamics of what has happened pre-election in many of the states. Jigawa is a state where a former governor wants to be a senator, his son wants to be the governor, another of his son wants to come to House of Reps, and people are saying, come, are you the only dynasty that you want to establish? So that could also have helped in the nicking of Jigawa by APC, not forgetting that it's an APC governor, that two-term governor that is exiting the state. Then you also need to, even the Lagos, it doesn't come to me as a surprise what has happened in Lagos. And people should be very careful because their doubts will be cleared in 2 weeks' time. Lagos has always presented a political environment that is so unpredictable, just like Oyo State. In 2019, we had a scenario in Oyo State where the first governor to do two-term could not come to Senate. And that was the only senatorial district that was lost to PDP in Oyo State. I'm talking of late Senator Abiola Ajimobi, the only two-term governor, and wanted to come to Senate. Of course, it's been there before. And people said, no, you can't go there. You messed up the APC primaries, governorship primary, and we are not going to reward you for that. What has played out in Lagos, in my own opinion, there are about 5 factors that have played out. One is religion. You have a lot of Pentecostal pastors who have told their congregation, don't vote for Muslim ticket, it's an enslavement, it's that. We saw that. We saw it on video. I mean, 2, the Igbo community in Lagos is very strong. After Yoruba, Igbos are the next. In fact, when they said in the morning, remaining Ojo and Alimosho, I said, look, I know the outcome of that. Of course, the one that shocks me is Alimosho going to Labour Party. But again, things do change. Things do change. And then don't forget the economic crunch that preceded the election, which was mostly felt in Lagos. I mean, of course, many other city centers, people not having cash, people not, Lagos, where the port is in Apapa and Lagos is experiencing fuel queues.
Yeah, but Mr. Ojo, the APC candidate did loudly say, this policy doesn't emanate from us. We oppose this policy.
Oh, at what time?
He was playing
at the 11th hour. At the 11th hour, it doesn't work that way. People already, you see, people already made up the religious factors. In fact, I recall that at some point, after Fashola's governorship in Lagos State, the Christian community told Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, the next governor of Lagos must be a Christian. They told him point blank, you remember, Mokpe? They said, look, we will not have another Muslim governor in Lagos after the two.
It's interesting as cosmopolitan as Lagos is,
yes.
You know, that religion is playing a factor in its own politics. But what I want you to quickly do is list the 5 factors. You talk about 5 factors.
Yes.
Religion,
ethnicity, Igbo, then the economy. Economy plays a very key role. The NSAS protest. NSAS was very strong. Just 2 years ago, Lagos was the most impacted by NSAS, and that as you know, that temple has not died naturally, particularly Lekki experience. So that also played a key factor, and of course the Tinubu people wants Otoge. I mean, is it only Tinubu that owns Lagos? You know, they call him Lagos boy. He's been there controlling affairs of Lagos for the past 24 years. So let's have a change for of course, Ambode supporters really haven't forgiven Tinubu for what happened in 2019. So all of this played out. These 5 critical factors, in my own estimation, played out in what...
There is a dynamics, actually, that I also want us to look at. And I'm actually looking at a deeper taste of what the figures are giving us to chew. Now, if you are looking at these 2 men standing side by side, Peter Obi of the Labour Party and Bola Tinubu of the APC, 572,000 and 582,000, just about less than 11,000 votes in between both of them. Now, you look at what is surprising for some is how Atiku performed in Lagos. Did you ever expect that if Atiku was going to get any vote, it was going to be in the region of 75,000, not up to 100,000 votes? Don't forget, it's always a state that PDP has always eyed over the last 20 years. PDP has always wanted to win Lagos.
Unfortunately, PDP has always, they have always been Shoroye of Lagos. You know, they've always eyed their seats, they never got it. And PDP had always performed poorly in Lagos, to the best of my knowledge. All attempts, the few times they did well is because of the Igbo factor, and I recall that it was actually an intrigue and fallout.
And when Obasanjo also ran on the platform
within the APC. If you recall, in 2015, the PDP won about 7 seats, including House of Reps position in Lagos, because of the internal bickering in the APC. That's why I say all politics are local. The moment you don't have a cohesive and united house, and which is, in fact, that is the greatest shock I received, was APC winning Kwara. Because of Otoge and Osuwa factor in Kwara, I was hoping that there would be no upset in Kwara, given the fact that people seem disenchanted, particularly the face-off between the loyalists of Minister of Information and Culture, as well as those of the sitting governor. So it could have played out in one way or the other.
Those are live pictures coming from the Collation Center from Port Harcourt, the capital of Rivers State. There's been some contention over the results as being released and announced at the Collation Center. APC agent rejecting the results from the Port Harcourt City local government area as was earlier announced. And similar to what we saw at the National Collation Center, party agents were 1 or 2 things to pick in the process, having to voice out and speaking on behalf of their parties in what they found out as holes in the process or in the result or in the collation in the earlier stages, either from the ward or the local government areas.
Certainly one of the states to look out for, Sheung. We know how many votes are at stake in Rivers. We're looking at over 2 million registered voters in Rivers State. So certainly this sort of contention will be expected in the state, especially with regards to the collation. It's always been quite contentious. The tension is always quite high. But looking at where the discrepancy, or will I say the disagreement is coming from now, the agents of the PDP and that of the YPP not agreeing on the figures that have been reeled out so far for Port Harcourt City.
You look at that figure now, where APC with 5,562 votes, the Labour Party with the votes 62,451, and the PDP 7,203 votes, and the NNPP 301 votes. Incredible results coming out of Port Harcourt City local government area of Rivers State. You mentioned how interesting the contest will be in Rivers State, looking at the political maneuvers and some of the intrigues that have come into the Rivers politics, not only in the PDP, in the APC also. There's a huge political intrigue that has gone weeks before the election. There are a lot of dynamics that have come into that race, and also uncertainties. Some supporters, to the very last minute, were not aware or not clear on how they were going to vote. And so perhaps some of these intrigues also is playing out right now in the collation of the results.
I'm just wondering, do you think, because, you know, we were talking earlier about Oyo State, and with the results that we've seen so far emanate from there, the governor of Oyo State being one of the G5 governors, we also know that they, I don't want to say the ringleader, but the leader of the group, the leader of the G5, the governor of Rivers State, you know, certainly not supporting his party at the national level. How do you expect the results to play out here in Rivers at the Collation Center?
Well, it's interesting already, and every eye is on Rivers for the reason that out of the 6 states in the South-South, Rivers, I think, has the highest number of registered voters. And Rivers is one state where when you win, it's like the Kano of the South-South. you win Rivers with a good margin, it can neutralize about 5 states for you. So the votes are there, and if APC could do well in Rivers, or if Labour Party does well in Rivers, it will hurt the chances of PDP most, given the fact that that is one foothold they intend to have in the South-South, together with Akwa Ibom, because Akwa Ibom has about 32 local governments, and they are doing well in Akwa Ibom anyway. So they want to do very well. PDP wants to do well. But you also need to understand that PDP could not campaign. Presidential campaign could not take place in Rivers because of bloodshed, the fear of bloodletting. So, and there seems to be a trade-off between Governor Wike and Peter Obi at some point.
I mean, interesting scenario playing out. We've been told that the collation officer for Port Harcourt City local government area, Professor Omiye Briggs, has been asked to stay back at the collation center for security reasons. Information coming from the collation center there in Port Harcourt is that the collation officer for Port Harcourt City LGA, Professor Omiye Briggs, has been asked to stay back at the collation center for security reasons.
Out there, cross their eyes and their T's and dot their I's.
One day is a long time in politics. 10 minutes might be a long time in this collation for the people of Rivers State, but look, as we're keeping vigil across the nation, so at some states also keeping their eyes closed and keeping vigil, the race is not over until it's finally over.
Yeah, interestingly, the comments from Rivers State Governor, I think it was earlier today, where he did say he did not disrupt the proceedings or something like that, because there are several comments making the rounds in Rivers concerning how the elections turned out, how things went. So it'll be interesting to see who gets what and by what margin, because, I mean, Mr. Joe also alluded to the fact that depending on how the margin is for each of those political parties, it could have implications. But wait a minute, is it likely going to affect how the next elections in less than 12 days go?
Not necessarily. You see 2 weeks. That's one thing people need to know. What happened on Saturday was national elections. And national elections comes with their own peculiarities and idiosyncrasies. So people are electing those who are going to Abuja. So it's for Abuja politicians. The real election comes...
Are they sending them off?
That's the same fault. It's Abuja politicians, isn't it, Baroga? They are sending them off to Abuja. You can see that Comrade Adam Oshiomhole is returning to Abuja to come and do some work in the Senate, and that's heartwarming. Godswill Akpabio, after the cool-off at the ministerial level, is returning to Senate. But you see, when it comes to governorship and state house of assembly, that's when you know all politics are local, because you now will see a different dynamics playing out. For instance, in states where Labour Party doesn't have candidates, they are going to definitely vote for other party.
What about Lagos?
Lagos, Sanwo-Olu will still be the person to beat. Because what I see, okay, they are projecting Rose Favour, who is the governorship candidate of Labour Party, because of what has happened this morning. But I don't see him doing very well in 2 weeks' time. Because don't forget, unless you are talking of a non-performer, if Sanwo-Olu hasn't performed, there may be, I'm not saying that the person I see that would likely profit majorly in Lagos is not Labour in 2 weeks' time, but PDP. Because if you look at the way campaigns have panned out, Jandor is making is getting more vibes, getting more traction in the media with Funke Akindele than the Rose Favour guy, who is the Labour Party candidate. So the trade-off is Peter Obi needs to win Lagos to make a statement. And you could see the intrigues that played out. When he wanted to do the grand finale of his campaign, he didn't go to Oka. He knows he has that in his pocket. So he went to Lagos, went to Alaba, went to the markets to do the drive.
Does it not make sense to you? I mean, for those who criticize him that he paid too much attention to Lagos. Peter Obi visited almost all the major markets in Lagos. He went to Ladipo, Alaba, Ikeja. I didn't think that he went to Oshodi. I thought he went to Ladipo, Alaba. He went to Ikeja. Those are major places that he thought they are catchment for him. And for those who criticized him, perhaps have seen the light that when he was looking at getting this number of votes, he had his eyes on a certain mark. Yeah. And perhaps, you know, it's making sense. But I guess it's a good time for us to get some reactions, Chamberlain and Mark. There are a lot of people who have said, who have spoken out about this process. There are a lot of reactions that we're getting as to how this conduct and this exercise have spanned out. And it's getting intense. Let's listen to a former president, Olusegun Obasanjo, who addressed the press earlier today. And these in his own words in the press conference he addressed.
I am constrained to speak at this point. And I crave the indulgence of the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, His Excellency General Muhammadu Buhari, to make this statement because I've had opportunity to keep him aware of what I know is happening and the danger looming ahead. On many occasions in the past, I have not hesitated to point out lacuna in the action of the President and his government. But as far as the election issues that we are now facing are concerned, the President has proved beyond reasonable doubt that he will want to leave a legacy of free, fair, transparent, and credible elections. Until last Saturday night, February 25th, 2023, the good and noble plan and preparation for the elections seem to be going well. For the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, a lot of money was spent to introduce bimodal voter accreditation system, BVAS, and the server for immediate transmission of results from polling units. It is no secret that INEC officials at operational level have been allegedly compromised to make what should have worked not work and to revert to manual transmission of results, which is manipulated and the results doctored. The chairman of INEC may claim ignorance, but he cannot fold his hands and do nothing when he knows that election process has been corrupted and most of the results that are brought outside BVAS and server are not true reflection of the will of Nigerians who have made their individual choice. At this stage, we do not need wittingly or unwittingly to set this country on fire with the greed, irresponsibility, and unpatriotic act of those who allegedly gave money to INEC officials for perversion and those who collected the blood money. Let me appeal to the chairman of INEC, if his hands are clean, to save Nigeria from the looming danger and disaster which is just waiting to happen. If the chairman can postpone elections 4 days to the election 4 years ago, he can do everything to rectify the errors of the last 2 days. No BVAS, no result to be acceptable, and no uploading through server, no result to be acceptable. Where BVAS and servers have been manipulated or rendered inactive, such results must be declared void and inadmissible for election declaration. Chairman INEC, I have thought that you will use this wonderful opportunity to mend your reputation and character for posterity. Your Excellency, President Muhammadu Buhari, tension is building up, and please let all elections that do not pass the credibility and transparency test be cancelled and be brought back with areas where elections were disrupted for next Saturday, March 4, 2023, and BVAS and SAVER officials be changed. To know which stations or polling units were manipulated, let a committee of INEC staff and representatives of the 4 major political parties with the chairman of Nigeria Bar Association look into what must be done to have hitch-free elections next Saturday. Mr. President, may your plan and hope for leaving a legacy of free, fair, transparent, and credible election be realized. Mr. President, please don't let anybody say to you that it does not matter or it is the problem of INEC. On no account should you be seen as part of the collusion or compromise. When the die is cast, it will be your problem as the chief executive of this country and that of the nation.
All right, then, former President Olusegun Obasanjo, who was addressing the press conference there earlier today in Abeokuta, will now then go straight to the International Conference Center, the venue of the National Collation Center, to continue with the proceedings.